I played a tourist, a little boy, and a little girl. but that was the day that I got Taft-Hartley'd. And then that's the day that kind of started everything.
Wow. Hey everybody, welcome back to Alicyn's Wonderland, the show that takes you inside the world of animation and video games. And I'm your host, Alicyn Packard. With me today is the voice of Claire Redfield in the Resident Evil franchise and the upcoming movie, Resident Evil Death Island. Wow, we are so excited. Please welcome Stephanie Panisello. Woo! Death Island! Ah! Sounds so scary.
Because it is.
Yeah.
It definitely is terrifying.
I mean, I wonder, just working on a project like Resident Evil, do you have nightmares?
I don't know if I would say it specifically because of working on the project, but definitely playing the games afterwards, it will give you some nightmares.
Yeah, but have you always been into horror and suspense like that?
You know, when I was really little, I did enjoy it. I used to love horror. And then I remember watching a film and my parents were like, "Are you sure you're totally okay with this?" And it was about dolls. And I was like, yeah, I got this. Like, this doesn't bother me. It did.
Oh.
It messed me up, and then I had to take a bit of a break. So I feel that horror I've kind of gotten back into, to be honest, within Resident Evil, and because I stream a lot of different games, I've had to like be comfortable with horror again. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, as an actor, you have to go to a lot of those dark places just along with your character. Does it ever get too intense?
I mean, yes and no. The interesting thing about Resident Evil, I feel, is that there is so much like horror and monsters and things coming at you, but the scarier parts is kind of how the people interact in those moments. Exactly, the psychological parts and things like that, especially if we're talking more so like Mr. X, if we want to go back into like Resident Evil 2 time, you know? So that's more psychological. So I think those parts are probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, an amazing role. I mean, can you take us back to kind of the casting process and what that was like?
Ooh, so, I mean, thankfully, so now obviously with Death Island, I've, returned a couple times over from Resident Evil 2 to Infinite Darkness on Netflix to now Death Island. So I thankfully was asked on to come return as my returning role for the other two. But
that's a relief.
Yeah, exactly. So, but as far as Resident Evil 2, I mean, that's when the whole franchise really kind of got rebooted, and when it got rebooted, we weren't sure necessarily what was going on, but as an actor, I knew who it was clearly, because I don't know too many other characters that are like, "Don't shoot, I'm a human," you know? So I was like, okay, this is clearly Claire Redfield. So
because you were familiar with the franchise.
I knew the franchise. Yes. I mean, she's super iconic. So it's kind of, yeah.
So was it just, you got the sides and you prepared, and was there a callback or?
Multiple callbacks. Yeah, I had gotten the sides. There was multiple callbacks. They were very specific on movement, and kind of, I think what kind of gave me that upper edge was honestly having like guns training, stunts training, all that kind of stuff, because that was definitely pretty important with this role. So I think, multiple callbacks. I'm trying to think how many there were. I feel like there was probably like 2 or 3 callbacks, probably. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so, did you get that audition from your on-camera agent or your voiceover agent?
So at that time, I had been working through stuff all on my own, to be honest with you. Because I started on the production side of games, and so it was all through different relationships that I had kind of established, and like things that I had learned, and I just happened to know that this audition was happening. But definitely thankful that I did. So.
Yeah. And so you prepared and went in there and was it self-taped to start?
No, this was all in person.
Oh, wow.
So everything was in person, and that's why, like I said, like the physicality wise, like we were like, how do you run? How do you handle a gun? How do you, what would you do in this situation? I'm doing like dives and like all this crazy stuff because I have no idea what they want. So, but Yeah, it was a cool process. I mean, thankfully now I have agents that can take care of all the parts. But in the beginning, that's kind of how it came to be.
So were you just blown away? Were you so excited when you found out you got the role?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But at that time, we did not know how big it was going to be. So it was kind of a bit of a surprise, honestly, for everybody, like for all of us and for Capcom, how well received the game was going to be and how it was going to really put Resident Evil back on the map. So, because that really just kind of established everything again, which is, I mean, it's been a blessing and so wonderful for all of us. So,
how has the fan response been to your interpretation of Claire?
So it's funny. So you know how they always tell you, like, don't read the comments online?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't read the comments online. So in the beginning, they had put out a teaser trailer that went out to E3. And they honestly had like maybe one line that Claire had said. And it was one of like the cheesiest lines. And that's, I mean, Resident Evil's known for like some of our like funny little cheesy lines that kind of add to that world. Exactly, it's a vibe. And I remember the line was, "It's like a nightmare." And I was like, oh man. And they used that one line out of context as the thing. And then I was like, oh no. And then people were like, I don't know about Claire though. And I was like, no, it's gonna be bad. We did a horrible job. I was so bad. And then, but then the game came out and it was a completely different response. It actually, it's honestly been super well received. And especially with it being an iconic character, is like, you know, how do you recreate it, make your own and all that? And how will people take it? It's like the original fans versus new fans. And they loved it. And I'm so glad that like I was trusted with it and like the changes that I made were well received. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So you say you actually got your start on the other end, the production end of gaming. How did that come about?
Oh man, are we asking about my origin story here?
Yeah, do you want to just dive right in? Let's just go there. I mean, because also, I mean, you know, you've moved to Los Angeles. I heard a little bit about that experience of choosing to move to Los Angeles and everything. So yeah, why don't we just take it back to the beginning and you can just tell me everything, Stephanie. Just tell me everything.
I will need
some
just
tea.
a little tea here. How it all began. So yes, I feel like I had a little bit of the non-traditional yet kind of like that, oh, you were found kind of like story. I did come on vacation and
with your family?
No, completely to visit my best friend actually. And I had literally a suitcase packed and no plans whatsoever. My mother was the one that was like, oh, you should at least like try acting. She's like, just do it for me. And I was like, okay, Mom. So at that time I had graduated political science, international affairs. I was gonna go to law school, start an NGO, work for the United Nations.
What's an NGO?
A non-government organization.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny.
Sus.
Oh, yeah. Claire Redfield actually is super into NGOs. What is that all about?
Fate.
So,
that's right there.
So I thought it was very interesting. But so that was kind of the plan. But I decided to just be like, why not? You know, and I tried it. And I started, you know, just trying to get myself on set and what it's like, you know, and all that. And I very quickly found myself doing background work and just, you know, being on set. I was that person who would carry around a notebook and be like, I need to just learn. I'm a sponge, you know? And I'm like, learn from anyone and everyone, because the little bits that you kind of learn along the way, like everyone has something to share. You don't even know who it might be. And I very quickly kind of started, you know, moving along through that. And then one day I was late to work. And now this is where my story turns into Brad Pitt's story. So Brad Pitt was kicked out of background work at one time. Best thing that could have ever happened to him. It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me as well, because I had missed a bus, you know, because clearly I didn't have a plan at that time and rode around in a bus at that time. And I'm really glad it happened, because I ended up picking up a job at Starbucks as a barista, because I had heard, oh, it's really flexible, right? And turns out they weren't flexible. They were a very busy Starbucks. But I did start doing stand-up comedy at night. So I would write, I'd write my sets during my breaks. And one of my customers was a sound engineer who worked at Technicolor Interactive. And he was like, oh, so what are you doing out here? Like, what's your plan? I was like, well, my mom wants me to be an actress. He's like, it's an interesting one. Usually it's like, I want to. And he's like, well, have you ever thought about voiceover? And I was like, well, yeah, of course, but it's super niche. And he's like, well, if you're interested, you should get this book. So I was like, of course. I immediately bought the book.
Which
I immediately started reading. So it was voiceover actor, Yuri Lowenthal, Tara Platt book, right? Immediately read the book. And then anything he would kind of say, I would immediately do. And so he was like, oh, wait a minute. No, she's serious about this, right? And so at that time, I would always be that like, yes, I'm down to try this. Yes, I'm down to learn. I remember, oh my gosh, I would be some of the most random stuff. I remember once we had a customer coming in who was creating the set of Sharknado 2. And he's like, oh, we're making a set. He's like, do you want to come check it out? I was like, sure. I ended up helping build Sharknado set.
Jeez, wow. Where was the Starbucks?
Yeah, exactly. In Burbank. So, but that was just where I was at, right? I was kind of in this like, yes, kind of mode. Anyways. A position, he asked, the sound engineer asked me if I'd like to come in and just sit in. And I got to sit in and I started seeing what it was like. And I was, again, a sponge, excited.
You were watching games specifically?
Specifically video games. And I would sit in and then an opportunity opened up for the production side of stuff. And so it was like as a script supervisor, note-taking, all that. And I remember being up against a couple people, ended up getting the position, and everyone was like, oh, wait, is that Stephanie? The girl who like come in and like see like what was going on? And they're like, yeah. And that was the best thing that could have happened to me because I learned so much, like so much. I would see some of the best actors come in. And
what company were you working for at the time?
So Technicolor.
Technicolor, okay.
Yeah. And so
that's the recording studio in Burbank where they record different games. Everybody comes in.
Correct,
so
yes.
You probably got to meet a lot of...
So I would meet meet so many people. I understood what it was like to work with all different kinds of directors, how they gave direction, all the different actors. Also like how incredible actors sometimes also don't have great days. So I also got to see like how that's normal and that's okay and like so many different things. And one day an actress did not show up for an NPC character or 3 NPC characters. And I remember sitting there and it was Jamie Mortellaro was directing and I'm sitting there, we're waiting for the actress and he's like, if only an actor was here to take her place right now. And I'm just working away. And he like looks over at me. He's like, if only. And I was like, me?
Hark thou, I need an actor?
Exactly. And so I was like, oh my gosh, me? I'm like, are you sure? He's like, get in there, And so, and that day I recorded 3 NPC characters. I don't remember.
Do you remember the game?
Yeah, it was, oh my gosh, Final Fantasy Lightning Returns.
Oh yeah, I was in that game too.
You were? Okay.
I had some NPCs.
That's so funny.
But I did not show up.
But, oh no, you were there. You were there. I wonder if we probably had met at that time then too. That's so funny.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I remember Jamie being there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, it was a huge game.
Yeah.
So I played a tourist, a little boy, and a little girl. But that was the day that I got Taft-Hartley'd. And then that's the day that kind of started everything.
Wow.
So I'm really glad that I just had that like, yes, and let's try it kind of mentality and that everything just kind of lined up. So
wow.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so how, I know you also do on camera as well. How have those two things kind of come together in your world?
It's interesting because, I mean, as you probably know, MOCAP is actually so similar.
To on-camera,
To on-camera. It's so similar to motion capture that it's one of those things where for some people, it can feel restrictive because they can't see the world around them. To me, I think it's wonderful because it's like the possibilities are endless. So it's been kind of cool to kind of see those two worlds collide. I do know that I'll probably be doing more on camera again, as the time goes on. But it was a really wonderful transition, honestly. And I feel that it allowed me to understand cameras and to understand movement a lot. So, because I think that was the big deal, is understanding, I guess, movement, but it's less restrictive than, as you know, like it's 360 degree, like 4 walls that are like, we're playing to versus just here. So, yeah.
Is that something that you learned on the job, or did you study MOCAP before you got into it?
No, I kind of, again, I am very much a student as far as watching. So for me, it was, I had opportunities to sit in during recordings of, when they were shooting MOCAP stuff, or I would train. And so I kind of I would try and watch, and then once jobs would come up, I just made sure I was like, okay, I know what I need to look for. I know where I need to be, a little bit more specific. Or I know that, at that time, facial capture, they needed a little extra movement in female facial capture because our faces would move differently than a male's face would move, so we would need a little more exaggeration for stuff. So it was like things like that I kind of thankfully got to kind of see. So
you got to see it from the inside.
Yeah, which is cool. And obviously, and then on the job you learn, I mean, as fast as you can is usually on the job. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so Death Island is coming out very soon, right around the corner. I don't think we have an exact release date you were mentioning, but how was it what was your experience like recording for that?
So first off, Death Island is very unique in the sense that it is the very first time that all the big characters are together. So, which to me was a big deal. So when I saw the script and when I found out, I myself as a fan was like, whoa. You mean for the very first time, everybody, And so that to me was already a very exciting experience. I know that, we've got a couple different female characters that usually we wouldn't see them in the same place, so that's a big deal. And it was just really wonderful and really beautiful to kind of take a character that I have been able to grow as well, and kind of see literally her origin story to where she has now come. And so it was just great.
Wow. Are you so excited for the film to come out?
I am super stoked. It's going to be a real blast to just also get to see it with my fellow cast members.
Oh,
yeah. So, and just to see the reactions of fans. So it's definitely exciting.
What has the fan reaction been?
It's been very positive, honestly. The interesting thing about it is, anytime that we do anything within the CGI world for that franchise, it tends to get a very, very good response. So I know that sometimes people would be like, oh, well, for the on-camera stuff, I like this one, but not this one or this one, right? And so usually with the CGI, they usually, are always super stoked because they know that it's going to be a little bit more canon and based on what they're probably going to want to see. So it's been a very good response so far.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And what's next for you?
So, I mean, I'm like, what can I even talk about?
Yes, right. I know. I'm not encouraging you to break any NDAs, but what can you tell us about?
What can I tell you? I can say that there are things happening. I can say that there are more games of other things happening.
Okay.
I'm like, I have to always be careful what I'm saying.
Sure.
And then I can also say there'll likely be more animation as well. So,
okay.
So yeah. But I work for the the CIA. We have to.
Yes, I totally get that. I totally get that. You were also in Marvel's What If.
I was.
Tell us about that.
I loved that show, to be honest with you. And it was interesting because I just give so many props for the ability that we had been able to actually record right at the beginning of COVID. So I was really thankful that I had a recording studio to be able to do that at because it was only home-based. Yeah.
What's your home studio like, by the way?
It's nice. I like it. Yeah.
Is it your happy place?
Yeah, it definitely is my happy place. It's, I think that's very important, you know, for it to be able to be that and to be able to have light too. So that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So, but yeah, so it was such a great show to record for. And it was really cool to get to, you know, also be a part of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
You know, and be a part of the Marvel universe with like the celebrity cast. Like that was kind of a big deal. I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit, I don't know. It was just it was a big deal to see my character, Betty, alongside the Hulk. Like it just, in those moments, it's one of those, I don't know if you ever have these moments sometimes where you're like, wow, that was pretty surreal. Like that actually happened.
Yeah.
You know? And so that was really neat to be able to do that with, you know, with Brian Andrews, who was directing on it. And he was super pleased and everyone at Marvel was super pleased. And actually they just, cause it took obviously a while with like COVID and everything, but they made like these great little gifts that, you know, they sent out to the cast. So I'm getting that in the mail now, which I'm like, it's just so cool to have like those little tokens of like, that happened, you know? And we made that happen like right at the start of like madness, like everything could have been crazy. And we just continue to persevere and continue to create. And that was super cool.
Do you find perseverance is a recurring theme in your life?
Yes. I think resilience is definitely a one for sure. Like being able to just persevere and just be resilient through whatever kind of like happens and gets thrown. Because life definitely has a lot of ups and downs and you kind of have to pick yourself back up and go. So, yeah.
Have you had any challenges that you thought were going to, you know, be the end or take you out of the game or?
Yeah, I mean, just like career-wise or how life can sometimes happen that can do that.
Life-wise, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that you know, that's unfortunate sometimes is that I've had a lot of abilities to work and to do different things, but sometimes it's in moments of celebration where most people would be like, something great is coming out or something big is coming out. And unfortunately, you know, I've had some pretty sad things happen in those times, you know? So while everybody around me is celebrating, they're like, you must be so excited. You must be so proud. And it's like, yes, but I'm also handling like all these like heavy things, you know? And so that's where, in a way, I think that it's allowed me, it's just allowed me to connect with more people. Like, to be honest with you, like that's what it's done. Like I've had, you know, like during Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, like I didn't tell anybody what was going on, but like I had somebody that I loved pass, like somebody I was dating who like I totally cared about. It was like, boom, out of nowhere, done, you know? Oh my God. And that was super tragic, you know? And it wasn't something that I was openly talking about. I was doing interviews with Netflix, you know, and having to be like, hey, yeah, no, it's great. I'm like literally in the middle of grieving, but I'm like, gotta pick up and go right now. So, and so those are things that I think you know, I think I definitely felt like, oh man, like this is kicking my butt. Like, oh man, getting up to like even want to be motivated to audition. You know what I mean? Or like when I was on the job, I've had this way of like when I'm in the character, I'm the character, so I'm able to show up. But it's the motivation to audition, right? It's the motivation to like do that kind of stuff. And I've been thankful that I have really great agents that, you know, were like, we're so sorry. Just whatever you need to do at your pace kind of thing, you know? And so that was really wonderful and really beautiful. But yeah, so it's like the unfortunate part of like those moments of celebration, unfortunately, don't always get them, you know? Or learning how to pick back up, you know, and like continue. And that's, that can be super challenging. And sometimes it can make you think like, oh man, am I going to be able to, you know? But what you realize is that you are, you know, you really are able to. And now I'm able to connect on such a deeper, more understanding level with more people, right? And so, so in a way, it's like these unfortunate blessings to connect with more, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure anyone who's out there listening that might be in a similar situation can hear your perspective and be able to find some hope in that. Because it's like pretty much no one is going to live a life unscarred by at least something, you know. We all have things that happen. It's just the nature of life. But to be able to know when you're in the hole and when you're in it, that somebody has come through and come through and still can maintain that light and that sense of perspective, I think is sometimes the hope you need to just for one more day.
To just do that. And that's a big deal. And it's funny because I think that's why like I realized the importance of like the characters that we create, and there's a reason why people connect with them, you know? And so that's why I think it's, you know, for me, it's really special when I get to meet different fans, and some of them that are going, like I had a fan, I wish I remembered his name right now, but like he was so wonderful. And like if he was watching this, like I was just so blessed, you know. He himself is like, had left the hospital. He's going through chemo through cancer. And he's like, I had to ask them to let me go out for a short period of time, because I guess he was like going through all this stuff. And he made sure to come just so he could come see me. And he still has his like, you know, like everything on. And he was like, yeah, he was like, I just love your character. Like she's just so like strong and like real and da-da-da and all this stuff. And I'm like, these are real life people. You know what I mean? Those are real life people going through real life things, like true badass people, you know? And they're connecting with these characters that we get to create, you know? And so that's why I feel like we're so privileged in so many ways that we get to create humans that maybe are not real, but that have real things that they're experiencing that other real people can connect with. So, I don't know. I feel like it's such an honor that we get to do that and tell those stories.
It truly is.
So,
and to be able to process your own emotions through understanding other people's stories and understanding people's lessons, and then bring that back, that sense of perspective back to your own life is a gift. And then being able to offer that gift to others through the work that you do is the biggest gift. It's just an endless circle of gratitude if you look at it the right way.
It really is, you know, it really is. And so that's why some of those days when like I didn't want to like get up and do an audition, I was like, well, you know what? Maybe there's a character I'm about to connect with. Maybe there's somewhere that I can like channel this into, you know? And so that's what I would just do. And I would just go little by little, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, So yeah, the long-winded answer is yes, there are times and things that happen when you're like, will I be able to continue, you know?
Yeah.
I had one where, I don't know if you had this experience, but I was on a job, not out yet, so I can't talk about it. But I had, and I think for some people, this happened. I had gotten COVID, I think it was like 2 months prior to it or something. And I couldn't remember anything. Memorization was so bad. I legit thought, I think I'm the worst actress. I can't act anymore. Like, what happened? Like, I can't memorize. My focus is off. Like, what am I doing? It made me shake everything and question my abilities. And then I realized it was just one of the side effects that you get for a little while afterwards.
Oh, gosh.
So, so those are just all things that sometimes you get shaken, but you realize that like, no, it just takes time, you know, and it's just being resilient and just persevering through it. So, yeah.
So we talked about resilience and strength, which are two qualities that Claire has as well. Are there any other qualities or things similar to the character that you see in yourself?
She's got I would say she's pretty funny. She's actually quite witty. Which I don't know if I'm as funny as she is, but I'd hope I am. So like, I think I like her wittiness. And then she's really kind. And she's honestly just kind for the sake of kindness, which is cool. And that's something that I think I relate with, which, you know, one of the lines that she has, which is part of Resident Evil 2 with Sherry, you know, when she's kind of holding Sherry and, you know, Sherry's been left by her mother, you know, and she's like looking up at Claire and she's like, why are you helping me, you know? And Claire's like, because I care. that was it. And I just love the simplicity of it, like just because, and so I think that that's something that I really resonate with her character as well. So.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any funny or interesting stories that came about when you were recording Infinite Darkness?
So with Infinite Darkness, I had also recorded for Shen Mei's character. So I did motion capture for her. So it was facial and motion capture. So not voice, because it was voiced after the fact. But with that character, there was a whole technical flashlight scene. And I had to scan the room with a gun and a flashlight.
Okay.
But in a very specific flashlight movement. So that definitely was probably one of the oddest feelings. But when you watch it, you're like, oh, I get why that needed to be that way. But
what is the movement? Can you show us? Do you recall what made it?
Oh, you would think that there'd be something like this or maybe something like this. It was the movements were here and here and here. But it was the way that it was done. It was I don't even know how to explain it. It was one of those things, but it felt counterintuitive, when you were doing it. But when you're watching it, you're like, oh, I get it, And then that's where sometimes I think had there been a room there that was in the dark, I would have been like, oh, got it. I can see how I'm clearing this. You know what I mean? Because I can see the light. But when you're in a MOCAP, you're like, where is this flashlight going?
It's like a lightsaber in the...
Yeah, a really awkwardly held lightsaber. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you feel, what advice do you have for people that are looking to get into MOCAP? Since it is such a specific job.
Yeah, I think people are more scared than they need to be about MOCAP, to be honest. I know that there are tons of, different classes to take and stuff to get comfortable with MOCAP. And I don't disagree with them. I just think it's more so when you come into it, just realize that it's not that different. It's honestly if you've done stage acting and if you've done on camera, if you just know how to walk.
Well, catch me on a good day.
Yeah, right. Without tripping. Yeah. I think that's the thing is just kind of understanding your body. So I think it's more about body awareness. It's understanding spatial awareness. So yes, do I think that it is different? Yeah, some parts of it can be different, but I don't think it's as scary as everyone makes it out to be. As long as you're comfortable with having things kind of attached to you, I think it's more so about being comfortable in that kind of setting.
People attached to me.
Yeah.
Things are good.
Things are fine. Yeah. So I think that's the part that I think people get a little too scared about it somehow.
You have, you said you have stunt experience and combat training. What made you decide to get that training?
I think it's just my natural desire to be a survivalist. I grew up with I have 3 brothers, and so
you had to survive.
Exactly. And I was the oldest, so I had to protect the 3 brothers. But yeah, there's just something about the desire to be really capable. I think there's just that's something in me that just naturally happens. So that's why I think I just naturally have always wanted to learn how to do things. And I'm like, oh, well, that would be cool. I have this really great excuse that I work in video games now.
So it's after you've been working in video games, you're like, maybe I'll get some stunt training.
Yeah, more so with the stunt side. I also have one of my best friends, she's also, in stunts. And so a lot of friends that were in that. And so I kind of already appreciated it and respected it. But as far as gun training, that was something that I was already wanting, I was already into well before I even got into all this. And so all that stuff is just kind of natural to it.
Where'd you grow up again?
So I grew up, I was East Coast. So I'm New York originally, so I got my street cred. And then moved on down at 9 to Florida. So it was South Florida, yeah.
Got it.
But yeah, and that just, it just kind of was just instilled in me. I was also a huge Tomb Raider fan when I was a kid. So I like just really wanted to be Lara. Like, and I think that's part of the reason why I also was like so much into like physicality and into, you know, like I rock climb and I'm big into like hiking and extreme sports and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Fun. Yeah. I'm a big hiker as well.
Yeah.
Not so much rock climbing, but scrambling. I mean, not with any of the gear.
Yeah. Bouldering?
Bouldering.
Okay.
I believe is the proper term.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you love nature and outdoors too?
Love it. Absolutely love it. That is totally my happy place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how do you make a practice of getting out in nature, since obviously we live in Los Angeles and that's not always the case?
It is in my book. I absolutely make a point of prioritizing my outdoor adventures. So I would rather do outdoor adventures than go out. Without a doubt. Like it's not even a question. If it's the weekend, I am literally flying somewhere or I am taking a road trip to anywhere and everywhere. I'm just kind of like, let's go in the car that direction, you know? And I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Let's stop there. Oh, look at that, you know? So that's a big deal, which is funny because I tell a lot of my stories usually of what I'll do on weekends, but I don't post much of what I do. So
why is that? Do you feel you need a separation between your personal and your public life?
Sometimes I also have a lot of secret hikes, you know?
Well, girl.
Yeah, okay.
You can let me know.
I'm big on and it's so funny. I never realized that I was that secretive until I like talk to like certain friends. They'll be like, oh yeah. And like, I can't tell you where it is. I have to take you there. And they're like, damn, you really got a lot of secrets with your hikes and stuff. So, but I think it's because I want to protect these places, you know? And some of them are just really beautiful and magical. And it's not that I don't trust people. It's just that sometimes I think it can get bombarded, you know, and people don't know how to safely protect these places or these animals or these environments. Like, you know, most people wouldn't know that if you wanted to go bouldering or rock climbing, you never go a day after it rained because all those rocks will break then, you know, and then you'll destroy it for everybody else that's coming, you know? And so it's little things like that. But also, I think I also just want to be in the moment. I kind of just experience it. So if I'm too busy, like being like, hey guys, look where I am and look at the things, then I won't be there. But I will tell stories like no other. Like when it's my streams, they always know, they're like, story time with Stephanie. I'll be like, and then this happened and then the thing and the thing and the thing. So I do enjoy it. And I did promise to start sharing some of my adventures.
In the future, we'll keep our eyes out. So you mentioned you do have Twitch and you do stream on there. How often do you stream and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I stream once a week. It's usually on Thursday nights. And it's Because I Claire, which is a whole because I care, because I Claire, fun puns. So it's just Thursday nights.
And what kinds of things do you do on your streams?
So I'm a variety streamer, so I play all different games and obviously storytelling. I'll be super goofy and then I'll get like super deep about life. And because I think you kind of need all of the in-betweens. So, but and then sometimes I'll have guests on, you know, so it just kind of varies. It's kind of fun. Part of the fun thing that I think most of my followers love about it and the community love is that they don't know what they're necessarily going to get that day. So, which is fun for me because obviously I love surprises. So I kind of enjoy sometimes when I have guests and I'm like, guess who it is? And I'll give random hints, but you won't know who it is, you know? So.
And then do your guests come in and play games with you?
Sometimes they'll come in and play games with me. Sometimes it'll be strictly just an interview. Sometimes, you know, we'll have tech that takes over. Like I had my friend Maggie, who plays Lady D.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
She was on the show.
Oh, she was? Yeah. So I had her on. I forget what that was. Probably I feel like it was like a couple months ago. But and we, you know how tech issues are sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
We had a voice mod on that was making my voice sound like I was in a cave. And we did
on purpose?
I wasn't doing this on purpose.
Oh.
voice mod turned on. Maggie sounds beautiful and wonderful. And I sound like I'm in an echoing cave. And we tried to fix the issues, but ended up having a wonderful interview from a cave and out of the cave. So,
Maggie, how are you?
How are you? Like, it was fantastic. But that's part of what kind of adds to the charm of just like going with the flow, you know? And
exactly.
that's part of like just what life is, you know? And I think that's kind of become part of the charm of the stream and a lot of the, my community, I think, has kind of appreciated that kind of just roll with it. Just do it, continue. It's okay. We're not going to freak out, and still have fun. So.
Do a lot of your people come back week after week?
They do. Yeah. I honestly have probably one of the best communities ever. And it's kind of wild when you think about it, because I've had people kind of come on and be like, because in the very beginning, like I didn't even have mods. I was just kind of like, I'm good. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, how is it so wholesome in here? Like, how do you have such like, everyone's like so good. And like, I'm like, well, you got to set the stage, be honest. If you don't like something, say no. Look, if you don't like it, you're not you're welcome to leave, and that kind of just, a lot of people just were like, you know what, gotta respect.
It keeps people in line.
Straight up, they're like, I need to be respectful in here, and this is a safe space for everybody. So like anyone can come, and I'm cool with like the smart asses, and then I'm cool with the people that are super nice, and that's okay.
Yeah. And so what time does that stream start at?
So it depends on work. Usually I start anywhere between 4:30 and 6 p.m. on Thursday nights.
Okay.
So, and I'll always give like a little shout out, like, hey guys, we're on schedule. We're good to go for this time, so.
Because I Claire.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Thanks.
Wow. Well, I mean, there's a lot. We'll have to have you come back on when you can talk about some more of the upcoming projects as well.
Thank you.
But for now, where can people tune in to hear more? Your social channels?
Yeah, so the kind of cool part about it is I'm the only Stephanie Panisello in the world.
Nice.
So
I think I'm the only one. I know I'm the
Are
only
you?
Alicyn Packard, yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go. That's the beautiful thing. So you could literally Google my name and then it'll pop up. So I tend to use Instagram the most. But I'm, on all the different social channels. So Twitch, Twitter,
First and last name.
Facebook. Yeah,
okay, great.
First and last name. And yeah, that's probably the best place to do it. But Instagram is where I promise that I'll start showing my adventures as well. So.
Amazing. Yeah. Any other words of advice or things you want to leave us with before we wrap up today?
I think honestly, the only thing is just for anyone, because most of the people that are in here, or would you say like some people probably want to like learn how to get into all of the stuff that we do?
Yeah, maybe about a third, maybe more. A lot of people are fans of different projects that kind of come over if I interview someone and they just stay and hang out. And then, but a lot of voice actors, I think, because, just the nature of this, I tend to interview more voice actors than other areas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people are curious about how do they take a dream and make it their reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like one of the big ones, and I think this goes for a lot of people, and I even think about it, like with some of my friends and stuff, is really know what it is that you want, right? Because I think sometimes when you ask somebody, they'll be like, oh, well, I feel like this and I feel like that. I'm like, well, what do you want? Like, well, I don't know, and it's so funny. But I think like if there's anything I could say is like really realize what it is that you want. And then from there, you can kind of work backwards, right? But if you don't even know what it is, if you can't even like understand what it probably looks like, what it feels like, what it, what it makes you feel like, then you have no direction to go, right? And so I think that's the big one. And then the other thing is honestly just live your life, because all of those experiences you're gonna benefit from. It may not seem like it, but you will, and you'll be able to pull it back. So
yeah. And I also feel it's like, the more you start to think about what it is that you do want, it's not even a thing, but it's really like a feeling that you're after. And we almost don't even have to wait to experience that feeling. We can just have it right now. That feeling of community or belonging or excitement or adventure, it's all just, but you've built a beautiful life, and I think people will be very inspired by everything you have to say. So
thank you.
Yeah, it was lovely to meet you, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks.
And thanks everybody for joining us today. We hope you tune in next week. And if you're not already subscribed, guys, make sure that you just subscribe, okay? Because it's not that hard, right? Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.